Okay, so in this lesson we're going to talk about keyframe basics. Now this, without a doubt, is one of the most complicated things inside of Premiere. And getting a good handle on it is going to take you more than just this lesson. We're going to beat keyframes to death so that you understand them. Keyframes are a start and a stop point. It's where your clip starts, where your clip stops. It doesn't matter what effect you're talking about. It can be any effect. Like I showed you in the last one, the color starts as bright, the color ends as none. Or the film starts here and it moves up here and it stops here. It's all about your start and your stop points, and that's what you're going to be creating. I'll need your lesson from yesterday open so that you can work with this different setup. So again, we're going to start with these clips that we had set up before. Each one of these is currently on a single video layer, an audio layer. And in fact, for this lesson, we don't even need the audio. So if you'll just hit that lock for your audio so nothing changes. If you want to, you can delete it. And in fact, let's do that. To delete each one of these, if I come in here with my selection tool, if I click on a video, it'll kind of have those two linked together. If I hold Option or Alt, I can select these separated. If I hold Shift as I do that, I can select multiples. So I don't need any of these audios. So I'm going to hold Option and Shift and just click and delete those out so that they're gone. Simple as that. Now, I need to create multiple video layers for this. So to do that, I'm just going to drag my video clips on top of each other. Let's start with just 4. So I want 4 clips on top of each other. You'll see that they move through V1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? Now, currently, you're only going to see the top one. Whatever's on top is what's visible. If I hit the eyeballs on these, I can see them as they move through. Okay? I'm going to edit the sizes of each one of these. Now, to do this, I need my Effect Controls option open over here. And I'm going to need to toggle down my motion so I can see the motion that I have. Now I'm going to scale these down to about half of what they are, so about 50. And then I'm going to move them into corners. So there's my drums, he's in the top left corner. Next one down is the bass. I can scale that down to 50. And now you can move these by altering these positions here, your width and your height. Or if you just double click on the clip, you can move it there as well. So I'm going to put him there, go down to my second bass clip, drop the scale down to 50. And you can click and type in these too. And I'm going to double click on him to select him and move him into place. Same with video. Down to 50. If it wants to argue with you, type it in. Good Lord, it's going to argue with me. Double click and move that in. Now we watched a film that did something similar to this, 2x2, right? Where you had all of these different clips running at the same time. So when I hit play here, I can see that all of these clips run simultaneously, which creates a cool look in itself. So understanding that you can move and alter things like that really does kind of create some cool looking effects with your film. Now, I want to work with the keyframes. That's key here. That key. Anyway, what I want to do is I want to move these clips. I want them all to rotate together. Okay? Now the trick to this is really just checking where your playhead is. Making sure your playhead is in the right place. I want you to notice that as I move my playhead in the timeline, it moves up here as well. Whatever clip you have selected in your timeline is the one you're going to be affecting up here at the top in your effect controls. So with drum 1, I'm going to move my keyframe or my playhead right to the beginning. What I'm looking to alter here is position. So I'm going to click on position one time with this toggle animation. That's this little stopwatch that you see on almost every effect. This stopwatch is about toggling and changing your animation settings. So position is currently here. This is my start point. It is locked in this spot. I'm going to move this playhead down to the end right before it disappears here. And I'm going to add a new keyframe right here. Now for this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with the position here, and I'm just going to move him all the way to the right. Okay, bam. So it starts, and you can use this little arrow to toggle between your keyframes. It starts right here at 481 width. As it goes to the end, it's at 1400. So if I hit play, this clip will move between them. All the stuff in the middle is just going from one to the next. As you can see, that number will change as I drag back and forth. But when I get to the end, it stops. It stops right on that keyframe. It says I'm not moving anymore. End of story. It's staying right there unless I add another keyframe down and it alters it again. I'll do the same on each one of these. So the next one down is this right side base. I'll toggle his position, and then I'll go to the end. Now with the base, I'm not looking to go to the right. I'm not looking to affect the width, the wideness of it. I'm looking for it to go down vertically. So on this one, instead of creating a new keyframe, don't do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and alter his position. And you'll see as I do that, I can put him into place, and the keyframe automatically gets made for me. Okay? So now, when they play, they move like that together. Continuing on to my second base clip, which I believe is this one right here. I'm going to go to the beginning here, and I'm going to again position, toggle, and animation. And that you have to turn it on to get it started. But then I'm going to go to the end here again, and instead of messing with any of this at all, I'm just going to double click on him and move him up. Now as I do this, you'll notice this little weird line comes in. This is the actual animation that it's going to do. It's going to move from one place to the next. And again, it creates its own animation, its own toggle point, its own keyframe. Lastly, on video, again, start it. In fact, we can do this in reverse if we want to. But I prefer to keep things simple. So I'm going to start at the position again. I'm going to go over here, last frame. And because I can't see it, I'm going to alter it here, moving it to the side. Now, when I hit play, all of these videos mix and mesh together, right? They all move to create that look, all right? Now, keyframes can be used in a lot of different ways, more than that. Like, this is just basic stuff here, just moving the animations. It can do different things. So let's go back to the drum. This time, again, staying on that first keyframe, I'm going to toggle the rotation. And now, if I want to make sure I'm on this exact keyframe over here, so it stops at the exact same spot, I can go to next keyframe from position, and then I can toggle my rotation keyframe to add a new one. And I can rotate this, and you'll see the rotation. What I'm looking for is 1x. What that means is that it is rotated exactly one time. Now, when I come back, not only is he moving to the side, he's spinning around. Okay? So there's a lot of different types of effects that we can add and keyframes that we can add to this. Let's go down to the V2 layer, the video 2, or the vocal 2 here, this bottom right corner. And again, whichever one of these clips you're using doesn't bother me, okay? So on this one, I'm going to add a new effect. So down where your project panel is, if you look at the top, in fact, let me wiggle my little picture out of here. If you look at the top, you may not see effects right here. If you click on these two arrows, you can click effects. I would recommend moving effects right next to projects because you're going to use it a lot so that it's like that. Alright, so let's look at video effects. Now there are a laundry list of different effects that you can add to any type of clip. Feel free to kind of play around with those and alter them and do different things with them. For now, I just want to click on the Gaussian blur. So it's underneath blur, Gaussian blur. And if you know the effect you're looking for, you can always type it right here. So if I'm looking for Gaussian, there's my Gaussian blur. I'm going to put that on my V2. Now notice I click, hold, and drag it to V2. I can also do this directly into the effect controls, I can grab Gaussian blur and put it right here underneath Lumetri color. And that'll give it to me as well. Now, anytime I put an effect on, I want to see what it does. So I'll pump up some of the options here. Blurriness, you'll see it gets blurry. I want to add a toggle animation, so I can add my first keyframe on blurriness. I want to go about maybe a third of the way in. Add another keyframe. And right here, I'm just going to make it real blurry, go way up. I'm going to go just a couple of hairs down, and then I'm going to take that blurriness away. So now it blurs up and pops right back into what it should be. If I go further down, continuing to add this, blurring again, going back down to nothing again, and then stopping at the end, having a little bit of blur to it right here, I can create kind of a neat effect of it just fading in and out, right? So there's all kinds of different effects that you can add and play with, and that's what today's lesson is. This is a fairly short video because what I want you to do is experiment, okay? Experimentation is key. You are your best teacher in the long run. So I want you to click on drums. I want you to go to your video effects. And I want you to try playing with some of these different options. Maybe stylize is something you want to create. Maybe I'll play with this mosaic. And you'll see what it does. It gives it that blurred, like, very pixelated effect. I can add horizontal and vertical block keyframes, moving down a little bit. And maybe I push these down to nothing. One color. Maybe I push these down to a bunch, so it looks fine. Go a little further down, bring it back down. Play around with these different effects so that you get whatever effect you want it to be. So you can see how it's kind of going nuts here. That's my goal. All 4 of these clips need to have a couple of different effects to it. Play around with them. Don't feel like you have to watch certain ones. Time, utility, transitions. I want you to play around with perspective, generate, color corrections, which we've done some of those already. Alter these, edit these, play with these, see what they look like. The wilder this looks, the happier I am with it, okay? The key is I need to see these effects fading in and out. I need every clip to have something going on that's very clearly visible, because all I'm getting is an MP4 here. I'm not going to be able to see your keyframes here. I need to be able to visually see that effect going on and off, okay? So play around with these keyframes. Don't feel like you're going to make a mess. Everything's going to be just fine in the end, all right? Once you've got this, again, File, Export, Media. Make sure you're naming these things right, because I know this is, and again, you need to be on timeline to export media, excuse me. I know that what you're going to end up doing probably is not changing the output name. It's going to overwrite the one from yesterday, and that's going to be bad too. It should be your name, dash effects, or key. Save. Make sure sequence in and out is entire sequence. Format is H.264. And export. Everything needs to look crazy. Alrighty then. Once you've got that exported, I want you to turn that into today's lesson, basic keyframing. We will continue talking about keyframing and what you can do with it. Keyframing is one of the most complicated things for a reason, because there's so much you can do with it. We'll use this to make yourself disappear in videos, so that you just walk through a line and you fade off like you just portaled out of there. There's a lot of different things we can do here, all right? If you've got this, turn it into today's lesson, and that should be it for the week on this lesson. Once you're done with this lesson in general, you can exit out of week 5. You can save it if you would like. And I know a lot of you are struggling and fighting for RAM and speed and memory on your computers. Once you've turned that project in, you've got all of them turned in for the week, you can delete anything that says week 5 and recycle out your bin so that you have more space on your computer, because more files are coming and they're going to be bigger and bigger. All right. If you've got this, good job. Catch you in the next one.